The Lordship will have a new home, much brighter, more devotees, more preaching, more sevas will be there. So, wonderful expansion. So, we'll start? Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinamanu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Taptakanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Krishnanu Sute Devi Pranami Hari Priye Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatane Pancha Kalpatarubhyasya Nipasindubhyadevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I like to unwind your consciousness and take you into the past. We are in 2022. Roll back your memories and take a halt. 1965. And take a pause there. Something very powerful is happening here. The US and USSR are going through an intense Cold War. It has reached its peak and all negotiations have failed to bring about peace between these two warring countries. This story comes from a Soviet war officer who was put in charge of missile on the US. Each missile had one red button. When pressed, it would shoot at its target unfailingly. It was decided that that particular day would be the day when they will actually go for an open, cold-blooded war. And two countries will try to destroy each other. It was 99.99% true that this war is going to break out on this particular day. All notices, all people were informed, everyone was ready. The officer, along with his comrades, had a sleepless, intense, anxious night because the next day was going to be this massive war, practically aged by several months or years in that just one night with the anxiety of this huge war. From nowhere, suddenly comes a message, a wireless message, there will be no war. This officer's nephew joined the Hare Krishna movement. And years later, he sent a book to his uncle and saying, read this. This is about our founder Acharya, Sri Prabhupada. He was reading this book with interest, and it came to a point when it describes in that book the history of Prabhupada's landing in America. And obviously could not forget that day when the war was supposed to start. And he noted with great interest and with complete mystical amazement, the day Prabhupada stepped in Boston was the day the war was called off. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. This is the power of Prabhupada. Right? The personality whom we offer daily our homage. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Satma Andamohi Savadhanamate. So this is the person who is our life. Years later, there's a big program going on where admirals had met, French admirals had met, and there was a bit of program going on, and some devotees doing kirtan were trying to sort of come inside to do the preaching work, and they were not being allowed. Stay away, type, you cannot come here. And the admiral just looked behind this person and he saw Indra Maharaj outside there, said, let them in. And they came in and he looked at Indra Maharaj and said, Swami, do you remember me? What was the answer? What did you say?
He said, of course I remember you. You had come to meet Srila Prabhupada, and Indrajivana Maharaj had taken this newcomer when he had come to meet Prabhupada.
Yes. And Prabhupada met him and said, Swamiji, what is your instruction for me? This admiral said, I'm a very busy man, I have hardly any time. What should I do? What should I not do? What book should I read? Was I read Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita. Any particular chapter, because I have just no time. Read the 9th chapter. Right? From that day on, when Prabhupada blessed this admiral, till this day when the Maharaj is meeting him, this person has read the 9th chapter every day for years together. And he looked at him and said, where is Swami? He said, Swami is no more. And that brought tears to the eyes of this French admiral. Dear devotees, we're talking about a person who has had such an impact on the world, which we ourselves are not to be aware. Yes, we do say that he made 108 temples, and today there are more than 600 temples of ISKCON. We do say that he printed millions of books, and they're all in people's homes and in the bookstores and libraries, right? But far more than that, the impact on the lives of the people has been something which history will still grasp to recount. What is the power of one man? It began historically in the whole story of Prabhupada actually begins from, let me be saying in English, right? Game changer, right? All of us have had in our lives some time when we call it, that was a game changer in my life. Right? We say that many times. So the game changer for Prabhupada has been 1922, right? When now ISKCON is, we are happy that Dwarkadish Junction Road in Kolkata now belongs to ISKCON. Right? And we have to know that historical place which was not within our reach, but 100th year, this is the 100th year of that historical meet between two great acharyas, when Prabhupada's heart was sown the seed, go to the West and preach in the English language message of the Bhagavad Gita. So that 1922 was such an important year when Prabhupada actually took to heart and realized that the movement is in the right hands, right? When he came out after meeting Narendra Mullik, he said, movement in the right hands. And from that day he became, the game changer was what? from a nationalist, from a Gandhian, from a Khadidhari, he became a full-fledged, convinced Vaishnava. Right? That was a game changer. We will go a little fast and not look at Prabhupada's whole life. But we go to 1933, Prabhupada's initiation. I have seen this young boy. He likes to hear. And therefore Prabhupada gets Harinam and second initiation together. Abhay Charan became Abhay Charana Aravinda. And therefore our ISKCON logo also has got that Aravinda. Right? Abhay Charana Aravinda. So that was the important thing that it was in Allahabad, right? Gaudiya Math. It was Rusnath Gaudiya Math. That was 33. 44 was even more commitment towards the mission. 1944 was the beginning of the Back to Godhead magazine. The Prabhupada was the backbone of our temple, of our movement. So with British rules, rationing of paper very costly, no resources, Prabhupada's building business, difficult times, no resources whatsoever, poverty striking Prabhupada, and yet he launched this paper. After he was told that, Swami, don't make sheets of double sheets, but start actually a proper paper. So Prabhupada started that in 1944, and that's like Prabhupada's beginning of his writing career. Right? This Acharya had so much to communicate, and we now also when we read the articles written at that time, we are amazed. Their articles are still there, preserved in the archives. More intense life comes in 1955, and now we enter into the Jhansi chapter, right, where Prabhupada starts the League of Nations, then Prabhupada said League of Devotees, right, same name. So Jhansi was very encouraging, very enthusing, very optimism. A lot of optimism was there. Prabhupada felt this is going to be my headquarters now. He had the Bharati Bhavan, and the Bharati Bhavan had on its building the Mahamantra written. And Prabhupada saw it and said, this building is Mahamantra written. It must be for me, right? Prabhupada bargained and got a place. He said, you can use this place free of charge, whatever. And later on, came when she said, his wife said, I want to make a Mahila Mandal there. Mahila Mandal. Mahila Mandal. When Mahila is going to have something, Prabhus cannot do anything, right? So they asked for 5,000 rupees in 1956. 5,000 rupees. How much is that? People like him will tell us. And Prabhupada had barely, had 500 rupees to even maintain that. So that 56 chapter also was fast brought to. And now, the word Acharya has got no home to stay, no place to go, no followers, no paper to print, no support systems. He is absolutely at the lowest level of, in one sense, despondency. And he turns towards Vrindavan. So then he's Vamsagopal temple for 3 years, the other one temple for another 3 years, right? Prabhupada starts writing. So next 11 years, 55, we have 65 and 66, correct? So that's the time when actually the 3 volumes of Prabhupada ready. I was so happy today in the morning. My day started with visiting the Brooklyn temple. And I had never seen Prabhupada's dictaphone. Right? How many of you see Prabhupada's dictaphone? You've seen? Yeah. If you haven't seen, it's right there in the Brooklyn Temple Museum. Right? And Prabhupada sitting the same, there's a picture behind, but talking, his Prabhupada wearing the same clothes as in the picture. Prabhupada having the same dictaphone which is in the picture. Prabhupada having the same Narasimha which is in the picture. Everything is exactly the same.
Picture perfect.
Picture perfect. Picture perfect, absolutely. There's his glass, his lota, his jug to drink water. So this is that special instrument which actually, where Prabhupada poured his heart into, and the dictaphone. The dictaphone is very much there. His shoes, those lotus feet which landed in Boston Pier, 1965, 17 September, the shoes which he was wearing are there at Brooklyn Temple. I'm sure you all want to go and see that and offer a pranams to that place. So then the actual history of the birth of ISKCON starts. And more or less we are conversant with the 11 years. We've heard that many, many times. So actually the Acharya's life, when Krishna is born, Krishna, it is known that he is God. It is already predicted in the scriptures. He is born in a divine way with 4 hands, born to Mother Devaki. Narasimha is born, you don't have to tell this is God. He comes from the pillar and it's very obvious this is God, right? But when the Acharya is born, it is not often known. But like the rising sun, at some point he starts shining and making his presence felt and illuminates the whole world. His brilliance of his devotion. And the most powerful part of Prabhupada, which actually is very endearing to us, we are in the 125th year of Prabhupada's appearance, is when actually the sun of Prabhupada is setting. So Prabhupada would like to take those 125, not years, but 125 days, when the sun of Srila Prabhupada started setting in the horizon of Sri Vrindavan Dham.
Actually, in Niti Shastra, Chanakya Pandit wrote Niti Shastra, it is said that Prabhat means morning time. Prabhate Dyut Prasangena. Dyut means what? Gambling. Prabhate Dyut Prasangena, Madhye Stri Prasangena, and Ratre Chor Prasangena. We understand Sanskrit. It means, Prabhate means morning, we should discuss about Mahabharata. About Mahabharata. Afternoon is Stri, Madhya Stri Prasangena means, discussing Stri means Ramayana. The whole Ramayana was around one Stri. Today is Mother's Day, very important. Today is Mother's Day or yesterday was? We are confused with India and yesterday. So, very important to remember our Supreme Mother. So, it is around Sita. And Ratre Chor Prasangena. Who's the Chor? Makhan Chor. Chit Chor, Makhan Chor. Right? So, why do we think that, discussing about these people is important? Because they have very famous personalities. Mahabharata has very famous personalities. Ramayana has very famous personalities. Few years back, Ram and Krishna was known only in India. Nobody knew outside of the banks of India, nobody knew about him. But this one personality made Ram and Krishna a household word. Right? Even Eskimos in Alaska know about Krishna. Even Swahilians in the African jungles, they know about Krishna. And sometimes it's amazing even we know about Krishna. Much more than what we knew. Right? Otherwise, we only knew what.
Living in the concrete jungles of this world, right? We are also like junglis.
So, Prabhupada was that personality who made Krishna so famous. So, sometimes it might appear, we know about Prabhupada. If you ask somebody, can you speak of Prabhupada? Yeah, Prabhupada, founder Acharya, he went to the West, he preached, and he made hippies into devotees. And we can't speak on him for more than 5-10 minutes if extempo you are told to speak. Why? Because we don't know enough about him. If you know more, then more comes out of it, right? And not only that, we don't love enough. When you love somebody, you can't stop talking about him. We see how Prabhupada disciples, anything they see or anything they do, if they see a lota of water and they will say, the way Prabhupada used to drink water right from top and it, stream of water would go into their mouth. Nothing would happen. It won't spill over. So they will see a slipper and they will see a walking stick. And they will see spectacles and they will talk about Prabhupada. Why? Because they were love struck with Prabhupada. They couldn't think about anything. So usually in this world there are 2 types of people. One is like Ravan. What is the meaning of the word Ravan?
Makes everybody cry.
Makes everybody cry. Those people because of whom tears are shed. Literally, those people for whom tears are shed. And sometimes those people might be in our own family also, the neighbors, friends, whoever, for whom tears are shed. And that is the saddest thing in the world. But what is the happiest thing? Are those people because of whom tears are shed. Like this French admiral, he was mentioning about, as soon as he heard that Prabhupada is no more, Swamiji is no more, just tears streamed down his cheek. Why? Out of love and admiration. That years back he met Prabhupada, he didn't know anything whether Prabhupada is alive, not alive. But till date, he was reading the 9th chapter what Prabhupada told him. Now, so many of our spiritual masters must have given us instructions which we followed for a week, maybe 10 days, a month, and then we forget about it. Oh, I tried, it was not possible. Like, that's it. But a person who is not even initiated, or just a third person who just met Prabhupada how many times? Once. And this is the impact which Prabhupada had on his heart. So we just thought, that this being the 125th year, we are celebrating the anniversary, why not have some epic discussions? What's the meaning of the word epic? Enhancing Prabhupada inspiration and consciousness in our heart. Epic. So we just thought, it will help us also in something. Prabhupada is a favorite topic which everybody would love to discuss about. And we know all these here for chronology's sake, because Prabhupada's pastimes are like an ocean. Again, so many books are written, we have heard so much, but just for remembrance sake, we thought we'll take a chronology 22, 33, 44, 55, 66 and 77. So as we said, 22, what happened? 33, 22, he met Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. 23, 33, sorry. 33 initiation at Prayag. 44 BTG, he started. 55 Jhansi chapter, and 66 Sumati Muraji Desai comes on Jaladut and he comes here. So in Finland, there is a concept known as the Shishu concept. Shishu means, it's a famous thing in the Finland culture, that they have great resilience. They don't give up. They don't feel defeated by anything. Sometimes there are small armies and a big army comes from, and you might see the army and say, what is the use of fighting? I can't win this. So you just give up before that only. But somebody who takes up challenge after challenge after challenge, not getting discouraged, right? And you don't give up at all. That is the, type of culture that the Finland people had. And even though it's such a small place, they could win so many wars and everything because of this type of thing. And Prabhupada also, in his life, he so much embodied this type of thing. He had failure after failure after failure. You just name it till towards the mid of towards the later on, around the beginning of 70s, there were so many failures in his life. After coming here, before coming there, everywhere. But he never gave up, never ever gave up, right? So that's why we thought, that, and especially the display of the spontaneous love and affection between a guru and disciple. We all are disciples, we all have spiritual masters, but to enhance the level of commitment, the level of our devotion, and the example which Prabhupada disciples set, which we could have through these hearing these pastimes, would very much help us to increase our love and attachment to our own spiritual masters. So we just thought that for some time we will perform a drama. And the stage will be your minds. You want to perform here? The stage will be your minds, and the actors will be the loving disciples of Prabhupada. The director, of course, is Krishna, and the hero is Prabhupada. Would you like to see the drama?
Yes.
So it's to that extent we will be absorbed in hearing it. To that extent we will all be benefited that what actually happened. So we go 125 days back in Prabhupada's life, around 1977 July. By then Prabhupada had almost, he was not, for 6 months he had not taken morning walks because he just couldn't, he was too weak. He had not eaten for over a month. And devotees were just going, they couldn't figure out what is happening to Prabhupada. Why is it happening to Prabhupada, and how to handle it. They were all just Discussion. We all know, one person sick in our house, how much discussion takes place. What about this? And why not try that and this and that? Because we love the people, right? And the proper disciples all had gathered and they had only one focus. What's happening to Prabhupada, Why is it happening? Why is this happening to him? So some people were saying, oh, because it is of he took so many disciples, it's because of the karma, it's because of, the sins of the world. I mean, karma of the disciples. Sins of the world which is happening and Prabhupada is going through all these things. And they couldn't just, different devotees had different type of thought processes. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, I think Prabhupada is not able to, leave his body or take a decision because of the promise which he has given to Radha Ras Bihari in Juhu. Radha Ras Bihari is there. So what was the promise Prabhupada had given him? I'll build you a temple. The beautiful book which Giriraj Swami has written, I'm sure most of us have read that book. The beautiful narration that wherever in the world he was always thinking like a mother tortoise. Wherever she is, but her meditation is on the eggs where she has laid. And same way Prabhupada, whichever place he would insist on having reports. He would call up and ask. So I said, Ramakrishna said, maybe because of his promise, he is struggling like this. And Bhakti, somebody said it's because of kidney failure or old age and all this. And then Prabhupada said, nothing like that. No one recovers from dropsy. Dropsy was the disease which he had. Dropsy is a type of disease where fluid gets accumulated in the tissues of the body and there is all swelling over there. So he said, Prabhupada said, usually nobody recovers from dropsy, So Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, Prabhupada, you always said that like a woman must always have, every woman must have a husband. Every patient should have a doctor and you are rejecting all doctors, What is the hope? How can we take care of you, Prabhupada? You must have a doctor, you must agree, What will happen if you don't accept a doctor? So Prabhupada just looked at him and he said, then I will become a widow. Because, woman without a husband is widow. He said, Krishna is the ultimate husband. And and devotees just, with tears they burst out laughing, that, look at Prabhupada, even in that state, whatever he is in, he's trying to make things so light, And Tamal Krishna Maharaj is trying to insist to him, Prabhupada, you can't leave. Radha Ras Bihari is waiting for you. You can't leave, you haven't finished the Srimad Bhagavatam. How can you leave, Prabhupada, So Prabhupada said, but I am not even able to translate. I am just simply lying in bed. If I can't serve, what is the use of living? The intensity of the serving mode, even at that age, like we take service so lightly, service hai to theek hai. If it is not there, it's fine, Sometimes service is there and we try to avoid the service and some excuse for the service, whatever. But this is the value that Prabhupada's mind service had. He's saying there's no service. What is the use of living? So all these little negative tones were going on in the group. And suddenly Tamal Krishna Maharaj thought, saying, Prabhupada, why not go to the West? If you go to the West, you will see your temples, you will meet your disciples and you will feel enlivened. And some devotee said, are you crazy? Look at his skin and bone, you can even see his heart beating, the ribs are going up and down. How can you take him in this state over there? You can't take him, So disciples were discussing that and Prabhupada was just hearing them, but Prabhupada said, yes, let's go to the West. And what he said? Why? He said, at least by going to the West, my disciples will understand how much I love them. That I am taking the risk of my life. I am taking a risk of my life to go there. Yes, I want to go there. Because in my mind, I am always meditating on that blue boy standing there in London. That was his love and that was his affection for there, So somehow or the other, all the devotees got together to this can go on for hours because it's so interesting, but devotees managed and they took him to London. He came to London and you can imagine, so many devotees, they were shocked to see Prabhupada in this state. They had seen him healthy, nice, the last time he came, and suddenly there was a deterioration, right? So it like hit them that maybe this is the last time we are seeing Prabhupada or what's happening, And then Ghanshyam Prabhu came, Bhakti Tirth Maharaj to meet and he was giving scores of the book distribution. Prabhupada said, hearing these scores gives me more life. That's it. The disciples caught on to it. This gives life. They went on marathons, emergency marathons. For hours, devotees used to be out and they would keep giving the scores. These many books have gone, these many books have gone, and Prabhupada would feel, thank you for doing book distribution. It is adding, life to my life. And then so many arrangements were made. There was foam put on the door so that the opening and the closing of the door doesn't make sound. Parking lots were shifted away from the temple so that the sound of the car doesn't disturb Prabhupada. And the highlight of the day for the devotees in London would be what? Carrying Prabhupada down from up for darshan of the deities. So before they could actually bring Prabhupada down, what they did? They would carry sacks of grains to maneuver down the steps to see. Several times they would go do rehearsals, going up and down so that Prabhupada is not disturbed. And then somehow they would bring Prabhupada down and then they would have Guru Puja. And what Guru Puja they would have, right? When Guru Puja would be there, Prabhupada could hardly move. He was just sitting like this. One time Prabhupada just moved his palm like this. And devotees went crazy. They started touching the ceiling, jumping up and down out of love. Because at a time when you can't speak, that lion of a person who would give instructions, who would tell people, do this, don't do this, go on, do this, he couldn't speak much. And because of that, his eyes had become much more expressive. And so much of emotion was flowing that just the name of a loved one would bring streams of tears down Prabhupada's eyes. And devotees were crying and Prabhupada was crying and the emotions were reaching such heights that at one point they said no more Guru Puja. With Prabhupada physically there, so they stopped doing Guru Puja for some time. And this was like, it was intensifying so much. At a particular point, some permissions came from America. And Prabhupada looked at the devotees and for you all to hear. Prabhupada said, I love America. America has given me so much. Yes, America has given me people, America has given me money, America has given me facilities. For what? To follow my Guru's instructions. So I am so indebted to America. In that sense, what did India give me? Opposition, trouble. Said, I don't want to go back to India. I want to remain over here. So devotees were like, so much of emotional wrenching was going on in the hearts that they wouldn't understand what to do. And in the midst of all that, some British devotees came. And the devotees said, Prabhupada, these are devotees from, they've come from which place? I forget the place. And they do very nice dramas. In fact, they just performed a drama a few days back on the disappearance of Bhishma Dev. So Prabhupada said, can you perform here? And the devotees didn't know whether to say yes or no. Tamal Krishna Maharaj looked and he said, it could have a contrary effect. Seeing this drama could have a contrary effect. So he tried to say, Prabhupada, it will be very exhausting for you, it will be very tiring for you, Let's not see the drama, we'll go back to the room. Prabhupada said, no, I want to see the drama. So all the devotees started performing the drama, and when that last scene came of Prabhupada leaving the body, Bhishma Dev leaving the body, he was looking at the drama so intently that Tamal Krishna Maharaj actually looked at him and said, Prabhupada, what are you thinking? So Prabhupada just looked at him saying that even I want to have a glorious departure like Bhishma Dev on the battlefield. And then they just said, wind up the drama and we'll go back. So this is the type of things that were happening in London at that time. And then he was supposed to go to New Vrindavan and some other places, and because his health became bad, he came back to Bombay. And August, September, he was around that time, like September month, he was in Bombay. And the opening of the temple, Bombay temple, Jew temple, was supposed to be in Jan. So they were trying to say, Prabhupada will be there. But the way the deterioration was taking place, wouldn't be sure whether Prabhupada would make it till then. So they were wondering, should Prabhupada remain in Bombay or should he go to Vrindavan? So, lot of devotees, Prabhupada said, call the GBC. And all the GBCs started coming and giving their opinion, you should do this. And finally they took a call that we go to Vrindavan and little bit if he becomes stable, then we'll bring him back for the opening whenever it is there. So our Srinathji Prabhu, he was the one who drove Prabhupada from Juhu temple to Bombay Central Station and put him in a train And Prabhupada arrived to Vrindavan on 2nd of October.
So that's the place where Prabhupada stayed at the very end, the place where we all go during Prabhupada's disappearance days, that inner room behind the temple, right? And that is the place where Prabhupada actually stayed from 2nd October to 14 November. Those last 16 days were spent over there. So that became a place of even more heightened emotions. And devotees, Prabhupada invited all his disciples from all over the world, knowing very well this is going to be the last, the Antya-lila has started. Right? So therefore he wanted disciples to come and actually feel their Guru's presence in their life and offer one-to-one service to him, chant for him, converse with him, and actually feel that here I am getting a chance to be of personalized service. I will miss this personal form of Guru Maharaj. Instruction will remain, but the person form will longer be there. So now you have devotees coming in. So several disciples came, Kirtan Maharaj came from New Vrindavan, and Prabhupada just looked at him and he was just so happy. Said, yes, I remember him. He was the first one to join your master's gift. He brought the gong, he brought the carpets, he brought the lamp. He did all the services, but he did all the cooking. So Prabhupada was fondly remembering each and every devotee's contribution which he had done for him. And then Maharaj opened his box and gave Prabhupada a beautiful cover containing $8,000. Because as a representative of Prabhupada, he had started initiating on his behalf in New Vrindavan, or the initiative send this Dakshina Lakshmi to him. And then a box of 2 jewelry boxes, where boxes which had some rings inlaid with precious stones and onyx, some sapphires, emeralds were there. Prabhupada looked at the rings, put in his finger and said, so where is the bride? Prabhupada's sense of humor was so beautiful, right? In the midst of this very heavy emotions going on. Where is the bride? So Prabhupada said, then and amazingly they brought even ice cream from New Vrindavan from Prabhupada's favorite cow. Remember Prabhupada's, do you remember the name of the cow, the first cow? Kalia, right? That was Prabhupada's favorite cow, and Prabhupada actually mentioned that he had so much milk all his life, but the taste of the milk given by Kalia, the first cow of ISKCON, was something which Prabhupada never had tasted before. It was Krishna's personal cow living there. So that ice cream came from New Vrindavan. And now, as she was saying, the mood was very, very downbeat, right? Because he had called for Narayan Maharaj, who was Paul Maharaj's disciple, and he was taking instructions from him. So please tell me, disciples, how to manage the last rites. So you can imagine, the father is telling his children, what would you do after I die? What I should do. So it is like party instructions, where should be the pit made, how should be the body placed inside, what will the rituals to be followed, what should not be done, what should be the size of the pit. All these instructions, the disciples were going completely crazy. How can they even imagine thinking of these sort of things? That they should have a utsav in all the 7 temples in Vrindavan, should have a festival in all these temples, right? Prabhupada was preparing for the, sort of the inevitable end which will come in. Even at that point of time, Prabhupada is very concerned, so send a car for Narayan Maharaj and bring him and take care of him like that. So this was, the mood was like that. And so Kirtan Maharaj began telling Prabhupada, it is impossible for us to imagine that you will not be there amongst us, right? So we don't know actually who Krishna is, but we are begging you, we are pleading from you, please stay. If you stay, stay for us, stay for the world. There is so much to be done still, and stay for your palace. The palace will be ready very soon. After the Rasbihari, first you get well, then the Rasbihari temple will open in January 2078, and thereafter you come to the new and to the palace, right? So that way all the disciples were giving reasons why Prabhupada should not go. Because Prabhupada had already become sort of almost convinced that this is a time of no return. There's no medicines are working, he's not going to recover. And Prabhupada was dead against going to hospitals. Absolutely against going to hospitals. The very word of hospital, Prabhupada said, I don't want to see hospitals, I don't want to see doctors. Of course, sad for people like myself, I would have no service. You always feel that Prabhupada will be happy to see our hospital in Meera Road. So I said, we are begging you, my dear Srila Prabhupada, that can you ask Krishna to stay you, to hold you back? We know that Krishna has given you the power. And if you decide to stay back, Krishna will answer your prayers and your request. So we cannot pray to Krishna because we don't know him. We have no access to him. But you on our behalf. So Prabhupada actually was very moved by Maharaj's request. And very nonchalantly Prabhupada take a one.
Is this your joint decision?
Is it joint decision? Okay, I will stay.
And I said, he asked, is this your joint decision? And I said, okay, get me something to drink.
Correct. So till that such time, Prabhupada had reduced his drinking to such a low level. Just you take few ml of water every day, right? And the moment he got this pleading, deep request from his dearest disciple, in a very nonchalant way, he said, Krishna has given the independence. So that made the devotees become completely jubilant, right? That if Prabhupada wants, we say, the pure devotee has mystic power, right? And he is completely in Krishna's hands. If he tells Krishna to do something, Krishna cannot deny the request of his pure devotee. So they felt that Prabhupada is now, so he said, Prabhupada said, okay, get me something to eat and drink. So from that day onwards, Prabhupada started actually eating and drinking. His diet increased, he started drinking. Whatever he would eat and drink though, surprisingly enough, it never led to any increase in bodily strength. Sort of going inside the body and coming out the other end.
Becoming mucus.
But yeah, and he would cough mucus. So that was becoming very difficult because he would sleep in the night and he would cough so much. So that was becoming very, very difficult for him. So Hariswami Prabhu, who was then his part of the secretarial team, went to Delhi to Ashutosh Roy, who was a very famous astrologer of the time. And he asked Mr. Roy to make some charts for Prabhupada and said, come after a few days, I'll make some charts. He was a very famous astrologer. He brought astrological chart and he went to Delhi and came back after a few days and he read to Prabhupada, and this astrologer suggested that if we have 10 brahmanas from our temples chant for 20 days this mantra is designed to actually give a person a good health and longevity. It is mantras for which is glorifying Lord Shiva. So it probably was a Mahamrutanjaya jap, which we all know what it is, right? So Prabhupada, the moment he heard that, he said, no. We already have the Mahamantra. We don't need to chant any other mantra of any other demigods. Just give me Harinam. Right? So from that day onwards, Prabhupada started inducting many of his disciples to come towards him and sing for him Harinam. And soft Kirtan went on in that room for several days. His famous prayers were, famous singings were, of course, Mahamantra. Then another thing they would sing for him is Yashamati Nandana. That was Prabhupada's very another favorite thing to hear. And they would often hear the Brahma Samhita. And the fourth thing there is Jaya Radha Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavan. These four were Srila Prabhupada's very dear songs which he kept on hearing from the lips of his very dear disciples. So that was Kirtanand Swami Maharaj. Then later on, Rameshwar Maharaj came. And the whole mood was how to make Prabhupada happier and give reasons to live in this world. Right? Because if medicine is not working, then at least how to make our father happy. So he feels so happy that if this is the type of, so that happiness would turn into positive energy into his brain, into his consciousness, and he would feel that it is worth living simply to hear all the nice news which my disciples are giving. So he brought a book of several photographs containing 14 paintings which were done by ISKCON devotees, which will be printed in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto. So today what we are seeing, the picture of Putana, the picture of Trinavarta going in the sky with Krishna, the picture of baby Krishna getting his name with Krishna Balram by Garga Muni, right? All those paintings which we see now were actually seen by Prabhupada personally, and he had approved all of them, right? Suddenly we saw a picture of the original Narsinghadev which we all have in our altars. Narsinghadev that picture that is also lying in Brooklyn Temple. So Prabhupada had seen that picture and Prabhupada said, everything is fine, just add more blood. so, so that painting is also there in the museum there. So, and he brought photographs of a cake which was made in Los Angeles during that time, which was 2,000 pounds. And 2,000 pounds is huge, right? I mean, all ladies who make cakes all know what is 2,000 pounds, right? And the motor system, whereby the whole cake would rotate, there were spires and towers, it would all move in a particular way, right? And so he brought that, and he brought book scores. And we should all remember this. I think this is about the thing which gave Prabhupada the maximum energy more than anything else was his book scores. And nothing infused Prabhupada more than that. So we think of book scores that, like this London chapter, they distributed 70,000 books in 1 week. And the book scores came from other places where they said, Prabhupada, we have published the Bhagavad Gita, and they're distributing something like 1,000 Gitas per day during that particular time, right? And the Gopalakrishna Maharaj came and said, Prabhupada, we're making books, we are printing 1.5 million small books, like that. So when they get all these scores of printing of books, Prabhupada was extremely happy. Then Hamsadutta Prabhu came, very dear disciple of Prabhupada. That time he was preaching in Sri Lanka, right? And you may probably have read this. It was very interesting. When I was a new devotee, I had read this and it was very interesting. He had challenged an atheistic scientist called Dr. Kapoor, right? And they had gone into a very heated, debated conversation with him, and he had challenged him that if you show me that you can create life from chemicals, I will give you 1 lakh rupees. Right? And the discussion went very heavy. It came in the papers also. And he started describing to Prabhupada how there is so much hope that even in these Buddhist countries, atheistic countries, around countries of Sri Lanka, they can create Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada said something which I think I'm going to read those 8 things. Yeah. So Prabhupada actually told him that you can establish Krishna consciousness in Sri Lanka, and he gave him something, it is written in a prose, but I picked up that follows 8 tips which are relevant to all ISKCON temples and to all of us individually. So first Prabhupada said from Sud Prabhu, and then to him to all of us, first one, live a very simple life. 2, chant Hare Krishna and distribute prasadam. 3, don't waste time for bodily comforts and luxury. 4th, produce your own food and cloth. 5th, don't be allured by the machinery civilization. 6th, don't waste human form of life in sinful living. 7th, organize varnashram. And 8th, do good to others. Do parupakar. So these 8 instructions probably encompass to all of us what Prabhupada has to do. What happened? Don't you hear again? So what he wants us to do and what he wants our temples to do, right? So this was interaction, video interaction with whom? With Hamsadutta Swami Maharaj.
One day Harikesh Prabhu came, Harikesh Maharaj came, and Prabhupada looked at him and said, you are such an intelligent boy, and I sent you away because I used to think at that time that why an intelligent boy like you should just be typing for me. Better you go and preach Krishna consciousness somewhere. So Harikesh Maharaj said, new temples, book distribution, devotees, all what we are doing now is simply Prabhupada to attract a glance from you. For your pleasure, we are trying to do this. So he said, Prabhupada, please get healthy. Because of your loss of appetite, we are also not able to eat anything, And hearing this again, Prabhupada would just start crying, how much they love me. And say, we don't feel like eating, Prabhupada, because you are not eating. So Prabhupada said, but you are young, you should eat. So Harikesh Maharaj said, such a loving way, he said, then I offer my youth to you, Prabhupada, like Kuru offered his youth to his, And Prabhupada said, but I don't have Devyani. Again, he just, diffused. Prabhupada would just keep diffusing the intense moments that were going on over there. Saying, I don't have Devyani, what is the use of youth to me? So Harikesh Maharaj said, for preaching Prabhupada. And then what Prabhupada said, that I will do through all of you. That I will do through all of you. And he said, if you distribute more books, then what will happen? I will never die. I will live for centuries. He told them like that, you know. Then one day, Hariswari Prabhu was talking to him, and Hariswari Prabhu was telling Prabhupada, Prabhupada, I enjoyed very much when I was giving personal service to you. Hmm? So Prabhupada said, but now you are giving greater service in Australia. I am very much pleased. You are serving me so nicely by being over there, because service in separation is higher than physical service. Many times we feel that we don't get to do personal service for our own spiritual masters, you know, they are somewhere else and we are somewhere else. We feel they are somewhere, we are somewhere, but this is what Prabhupada wanted to tell, that not that spiritual master lives forever, but that follower who follows the instructions of the Guru and serves wherever they are, they live forever with him. So he told that to him, and then devotee Bhavanand Prabhu came to Prabhupada and he was saying, you know, Prabhupada, my mind is going feverish. You know, I cannot think what to do. And Kirtan Maharaj came and he started sobbing that, you know, Prabhupada, please don't leave us. And all the devotees were doing this, and then, you know, when Prabhupada said, all right, give me something to drink. And at that time, devotees said Jai, and they were very happy. And Prabhupada told Kirtan Maharaj that I give you a blessing. What blessing? Live long and serve long. Can you think of a blessing better than that? Live long and serve long. You know? So it kept on getting more intense, and as he said, Prabhupada never wanted allopathic doctors because he thought the allopaths will put me to the hospital. So he revealed a dream to the devotees. And in my dream, I saw what? A Ramanujan Kaviraj. Vaidya, you know. So he said, find him. Now imagine, it's like finding a needle from a sack of rice. In India, there must be so many Vaidrajas, so many Ramanujis. How do you find throughout India? Prabhupada just said, I dreamt of this person. And devotees just spread out like the monkeys spread out in search of Sita. East, west, north, south. Find this Ramanuji.
And in the dream, Prabhupada also saw some more further details actually. He saw that he is making a medicine which is called as Makardhvaja. Some of you probably heard this name, Makardhvaj. It's a
Ocean of mercy.
Yeah.
in right land? Yeah, because he was also personally there. He saw that, and he saw that he is actually collecting herbs and making this medicine for him. So Prabhupada felt that is an indication that actually he's made for him, but he has to figure out where this Vaidya is. So
they found him in Calcutta and they almost lifted him up, and he had 30 patients at that time whom he was treating. And he was such a good Vaidraj, he had promised Dhanvantari. Vaidrajas are all worshippers of Dhanvantari, that anybody who takes shelter of me, I will never leave them. So he told the disciples, I will always help them. So how can I leave my patients and go? But devotees were not going to hear anything. Like Sushen was picked up from Lanka and taken over there forcefully, maybe, They just took him over there and they brought him to Prabhupada. And he started treating Prabhupada. And he was such a Vaidraj that he would personally go and find the herbs from the forest and he would make the medicine himself.
Actually, he already started doing that. This Makardhvaj takes about more than 15 days to make. It is not something you just mix like powder and just do a pudi and give it to him. And somehow, mystically, what was in the dream was actually happening. 10 days prior to the dream, he had already started making this medicine. Because after starting medicine, it would take another 20 days to make it and bring it ready. So it would be like, it would be too late. But actually, somehow there he was already making the medicine and it was almost 10 days through. He just needed some few things more. And they brought the best ingredients available on the planet. And what was remaining, he said, now this is the ingredients and now make it for a Guru Maharaj.
So he was giving medicine in a very steady way and Prabhupada was little bit improving. And devotees were getting hope and he was also feeling nice. And because after a few days, he became so attached to Prabhupada and his disciples that he would keep praying to Dhanvantari that in my life I have never asked you for anything. But today I am asking you that please empower my medicines so that they work on Prabhupada and his health improves. So he would keep praying in that way. And then fast forwarding it, since we have less time, on November 11th.
Before that, one more thing. Because Prabhupada's life is in his books. So at some point before this November thing, Jadit Maharaj came, Pradyumna Prabhu came, and another disciple called Arundhati came. And Prabhupada said, oh, the whole editor team is here. Let's start translation. Right? So here is a person who has not had any amount of calories or proteins, whatever we call it these days. Now we are like calorie conscious, protein conscious. Nothing of that stuff is going in his body. And he's speaking in such a soft whisper, barely you can even hear the lowest possible decibels of hearing. He's speaking like that. And yet he says, now I want to translate. So this is now the time. So we have seen, all of us have seen the Ever Well Wisher, right? That video all of us have seen, which brings tears to our eyes and heart, right? So that was videoed by Yaduvara Prabhu. When Yaduvara Prabhu came to meet him and said, Prabhupada, what can I offer you as service? Prabhupada said, you are here, you are free to do whatever you want. That was the amount of love. He said, you are such a wonderful Vaishnava, whatever you want to do. He said, can I film you? As Prabhupada said, yes, go ahead. So this is what we see is that Jada Maharaj is very close, they're holding the dictaphone to him. And this is now the narration of the 10th canto and 13th chapter has started. So it goes on for a few days, sometimes it takes a break, but Prabhupada could manage to finish the 13th chapter and enter also into the 14th chapter. So that is Prabhupada's dedication to his giving to the world, the Bhakti and the purports. How much Prabhupada really endeavored that even in the last months of his life, with no food in his body, and yet his chitta, his consciousness was completely bright and clear, and he could give his Bhakti purports to the whole world. Yeah, now we can take it.
One more devotee before that met Prabhupada, and this was before 1977 started, and he said, Prabhupada, my desire is to always remain at your lotus feet. And Prabhupada said, that's not possible, because my feet are always moving. He was always traveling and preaching, and when the devotees saw that person so immobilized and so much, bedbound and subdued like that, it was wrenching their emotions beyond. The devotees would come and say, Prabhupada, you are driving us mad. We are so attached to you, we love you so much that we are losing our sanity of mind. We are not able to sleep in the night, we're becoming so restless. And in the midst of all this, one fine day on 11th of November, Lokanath Maharaj comes and he gives his, Prabhupada asks for the report, and he gives a report of the Padayatra. That how he is going from village to village, preaching Krishna consciousness on a bullock cart. And Prabhupada became so enlivened and he said, take me, let's go for this trip, We will also, I want to go from dham to dham, village to village, and I want to preach and I want to go around India and this. And devotees said, Prabhupada, what? How can you do that? He's saying, no, you arrange the best bullock cart available, but I will go on bullock cart. And they said, Prabhupada, your body cannot sustain even a movement from the bed to the chair. And where's the question of going on bullock?
The Kaviraj was not threatened.
That I'm coming to that. So he was telling him that, you take the bullock cart and those thick wheels, not the wooden wheels of the bullock cart. Take the thick wheels and we'll go on that. And Bhavanand Prabhu blew it. He just said, Prabhupada, it is so jerky, you cannot do that. And then somebody just said, Prabhupada, tomorrow is Govardhan Puja. So Prabhupada said, okay, if you don't give me permission to go all around India, you at least give me permission to go around Govardhan. So he said, it is Krishna's arrangement that Govardhan Puja is tomorrow, and at least you take me in bullock cart around Govardhan. So in the meantime, Tamar Krishna Maharaj told Bhakti Charan, go and call the Kaviraj, because Prabhupada won't listen to us. Let the Kaviraj say. And they briefed the Kaviraj what is happening. And Kaviraj went furious, He said, I have left 7 of my patients dying over there. And if Prabhupada steps foot out of Krishna Balaram temple, not even Brahma or Vishnu will be able to stop me from leaving him and going away from here. Now, what can you tell? Yeah, Dharma Sankat, that Prabhupada, the whole devotee community who was serving Prabhupada got divided into 2. Half the devotees were saying, that's it, Prabhupada wants it. As disciples, it's our duty to follow Prabhupada's instructions. We have to take Prabhupada. And half of them were saying, are you out of your mind? The road is so jerky around Govardhan. It's not now. They have made nice paths and, parikrama path. Saying it's so jerky. Prabhupada won't survive a mile. His bones will rub against this and he will die. And what will the Brijwasis say that we killed our Guru? How can you even think about doing this? And again, they started fighting amongst themselves, you know, that how can you be so insane? And they were saying, how can you be so insane? And it was escalating so much, and somebody had to come and referee. It's okay, you know. And they just went to Prabhupada, and all of them just started crying that, Prabhupada, please, we are getting, you know, it's just getting too much for us. Your love is driving us to insanity, you know. Please don't go, Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada looked, that time Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj was sitting there, and he looked at him and said, just see how much they love me. If my right hand and my left hand is not happy, then I will not put you in anxiety. Okay, I will not go. And devotees all sighed, you know, breath of relief that thank God Prabhupada is not going. And Prabhupada was saying, why do you want me to live? My living is causing so much of complication and so much of disturbance for you all, you know. Let me go. So then some of the senior, you know, Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj and people told, they took the devotees aside and he said, give Prabhupada permission to leave. It's your love which is holding him back, and this whole struggle that is going on, you know, for every day to day, this and don't do this and do this and all, let Prabhupada leave. Then Tamal Krishna Maharaj and some of the senior people, they said that maybe that is what is Krishna's desire. We should give permission to leave. Now imagine talking about death like this as if it's in our hands, you know. Okay, I give permission, you go. I don't give you permission, you stay. Everybody's talking about as if it is all Ichha Mrityu, you know. Okay, we give permission. Prabhupada is saying, you give me permission. Okay, you don't want me to go, I will not go. People have conquered death. That's the way people were talking. But that was the extent of the love between Guru and disciple. That love, that surrender had the power to control death in the way, you know. So the moment the devotees said like this, okay, you know, we will let Prabhupada give permission from our side. Then we all know that fatal day, right? 14th November 1977 in the evening at 7:20, around that time, Prabhupada in a very, you know, the way they left their bodies. And when the news reached Jananivas Prabhu, he was serving in Mayapur temple, he was doing puja, and he got the news that Prabhupada is no more. And he just made one statement, that the show is over. The show is over because the previous day when Jananivas Prabhu was worshipping Prabhupada's picture, he saw Prabhupada but with black eyes. Means he didn't see that. So he said, I knew that day only that Prabhupada will depart soon. He will not be there. So he just wound up the whole drama, the whole last scene with the whole, how do you put it, you know, with a message to the world that what it really means, that what is the love, what is the degree of surrender, and to what extent a person can extend himself to teach not only how to live, but how to leave the world also. Prabhupada taught that. So when we hear these things, sometimes our heart, it's just for us to, you know, remember that for this personality who did so much for me, is my heart becoming restless to serve him? Am I ready to do? So many times we go through so many issues in our mind, sometimes interpersonal relationship issues or problems with our mind of not having a desire to do something, you know, not having desire to serve or to chant our rounds or whatever, you know, there are fights between us, husband-wife fights or devotee fights or anything. But if we ask ourselves that question, that if I were to stand in front of Prabhupada, would I be able to call myself his follower? It's not just a name that we want to be there, oh, I am, you know, in ISKCON and I am there. Imagine that we are in the Shiksha and Diksha Parampara of this great personality. Somehow we have got connected to that. That what he did, I mean, when the first time we came to the US and we went to all these places, you know, Boston Harbor and Matchless Gift, and every devotee who goes there, their heart simply swells. While we are coming to where we are landing on New York, there was a halt at Dubai and it was taking so long in the flight and we were saying, when will it come? And then Prabhuji was saying that you are feeling restless here. what to talk, Prabhupada spent 35 days on board Jaladut in the, with all the seasickness and all. And so everything has a reference. If we are thinking, what we are thinking of ourselves, convenience, inconvenience, whatever. So, we just thought that if this type of thing we could just remember, let not every year just pass by as any other year. The 125th year is there, maybe we can, just enhance our, as we said, the epic thoughts, enhancing our Prabhupada consciousness, inspiration and consciousness in our minds by reading more about him, by discussing more, so that he is the living Bhagavad. Whatever we are doing in our Krishna consciousness, theoretically we could get, but the physical example is there in front of us of what is expected out of us.
He reasons ill who thinks Vaishnavas die, but thou art living in sound. Vaishnavas die to live, and living spread the holy name around. Right? So Prabhupada, yes, we are talking about his Ante Leela, but great souls are like the sun. Does the sun die at sunset? The answer is no. The sun sets and apparently there is darkness, but it illuminates other part of the world. Similarly, Prabhupada's sun did set apparently on 14 November 1977. But the legacy Prabhupada can never actually die down. And you can see that over the years, the movement has even grown in number, in strength. In every possible way, our movement has grown stronger, much more stronger. Every temple is expanding, more and more programs are taking place everywhere. Right? So, how to be a small part of this great mission? How to be part of that unlimited compassion of Prabhupada is our prayer. To just be instrument of compassion of Prabhupada and bring His grace, His mercy, which He abundantly wanted to. He might not to make the whole world. Prabhupada had no small ideas. A man that Prabhupada said, "My diseases I cannot think small. That is my disease." What a disease to have. I wish all of us had such diseases. And we do not think small, Krishna. My disease I can always think big. Shooting for the rhinoceros always, right? So Prabhupada, nothing less than making the whole world Krishna conscious, right? And whatever we can assist him, that makes our life perfect in Srila Prabhupada's service. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Yes, the loud Haribol. Vishaka Mataji for such wonderfully taking us and transporting us back in Dwarkadish of Srila Prabhupada, and just to really show how great of a sun Srila Prabhupada is shining over the universe. But if we cannot be the sun, we can at least pray for the energy to be a little ghee lamp to light up a little corner of our lives, and maybe a few other souls to share the same energy of Srila Prabhupada in his footsteps. So thank you very much for joining. Thank you, Prabhuji Mataji, for transporting us. And let us not think small anymore. Big temple is coming up, so think big. Spread the joy with everybody.